Hello out there, and I've got a couple new Spydercos to share with you today. And while I'm sure that very many of you are going to be a lot more interested in this Maxamet Paramilitary 2, I am going to start with and focus on the Chaparral. All right, so if you weren't really interested in this knife, I will annotate down below to where we do start talking about the PM2. But I did want to take some time on this variation of the Chaparral just because of how interesting it is and what it does to the affordability of Spyderco's line of FRN knives. So, just a little bit of background if you've never heard of the Chaparral or you've never had one. It is a knife that is primarily thought of as like a lightweight gents folder, just a really classy piece. But up until 2017, it was a little bit hard to get your hands on at a good price point because there was a carbon fiber version, still is I think, that ran around 130 bucks maybe. But then the other versions that were available were all in titanium, and this line was known for just how intricate the designs on the titanium were. So those versions ran starting at like 190 bucks and upwards of $300 for those. And all of the Chaparrals, every single one of them come with CTS XHP blade steel. So the difference in price was really just for all those embellishments on the handles. And so I thought it was really brilliant of Spyderco earlier this year when they released a version in this Revere Noble handle scale. And what this is right here is like an epoxy with some brass and copper hardened into it to give it this really unique look. And I thought it was a really nice way to make a classy gents folder more affordable for the masses. And so this knife came in at about $120, I think. And yeah, I was really happy to pick this one up and gave it a very positive review. Well, all of a sudden this past week, with no fanfare, no marketing, no announcement, this knife right here just showed up on the marketplace at $81. And so what we have here is the CTS XHP Chaparral, but with an FRN handle scale. And so the FRN, obviously a much more budget material, cuts that price really far down and makes it accessible to a whole lot more people. So a big win from Spyderco in terms of that. And they're always so excellent at giving their consumers options. You know, knife companies all across the board can learn from them because I don't know how long it took Spyderco to actually craft FRN handle scales for this knife, but it couldn't have been too long, and it's just a no-brainer once you think about it. Why wouldn't they do that and give us a more affordable version? And so why wouldn't other companies do the same sort of thing? So yeah, just some food for thought there. But getting back to the knife and what it does for the rest of the FRN Spydercos out there is it gives us an option in size and in price and in steel between a few other really popular models. So here's a Dragonfly right here, FRN handle scale, and I don't have a Delica in FRN right now. I actually, funny enough, have one on the way, but here's a Delica as well, so you can see like the difference in size for these three knives. So maybe you didn't want something like the Delica, but you wanted something thin and a little bit larger than the Dragonfly, if that's maybe too small for you. Now there's just another option. And another option that's good for a gents carry, good for EDC. Yeah, just good all around. And when you're thinking about the price points of these knives, especially a Delica, a stock Delica that's going to run 55 to 60 bucks, you know, just the upgrade in price to $81 for XHP, I think is pretty fair. You know, it's a pretty fair upcharge. And so, yeah, I think we've got a good price point here. And again, just more options for us to choose from. So very cool of Spyderco to do that. A couple more things to look at when it comes to this knife. Let's look at the Bi-Directional Texturing on this FRN. And I'm not 100% sure when I say this, but honestly, guys, I do not remember the Taichung, Taiwan Spyderco factory ever putting out a knife with FRN handle scales. So if there is one, let me know. I'm by no means a Spyderco expert, but I haven't seen that from them really ever. So let me know if I'm missing something. I really might be, but this is something that I think is a little bit unique. And the patterning on here, while the bi-directional texturing isn't unique, just the shape of the hexagons here is a different look, and it works really well. So bi-directional texturing, what we have is all these hexagons are the same size, but the side of them that's closer to the middle of the knife is raised slightly higher. So as you like pull your thumb towards the middle of the knife, it's very smooth, but as you push out from the middle, you get that really good grip. And it's the same way with the other FRN models, like the Delica and this Dragonfly. That's just the way that the bidirectional texturing is, but just the shape of it and the design of it is a little bit different on this knife, and it's extremely comfortable and very well executed. All right, and then one other thing that I noticed about the Chaparral compared to the Revere Noble is that there is an upgrade in the quality of the jimping. And I don't know if this was intentional or if it's just my specific knives, but if I had any one thing to knock the Taichung Taiwan Spydercos on, it's that the jimping just isn't usually as good as what we see from, say, Seki City or the USA factory. And on this Revere Noble, you can see there's a lot of jimping, but it's just not very deep, and it's not as grippy, getting full traction the way you would want. But it is certainly upgraded on this FRN version. And so the jimping is a whole lot more usable. My thumb locks in better. So really impressed with that. Again, I don't know if that's part of their constant quality improvement or if it's just something that, you know, happened in machining between the two specific knives that I got, but definitely something to note. Last thing before we move on from this is just a comparison in weight. All right, and don't quote me on this. I want to say that a regular Delica runs at around 2.4 ounces. I'll correct myself if I'm incorrect down below. I want to say 2.45, but this one right here, the new FRN version, is 2.07 ounces on my scale. The Revere Noble, a little bit heavier, about a 1/4 ounce heavier. So we are cutting a little bit of weight. And just for comparison, here's a Dragonfly, 1.22, extremely minimalist and lightweight for that. All right, so overall, like I said, guys, really impressed with the way that Spyderco has gone about this, just releasing the knife with, without making a big deal about it, just putting it out there for us to enjoy. And one other thing, actually, when we're talking about this being a gents folder and a classy design, the choice of color for the FRN really works out in that regard. Because had they gone with like a red or a green or a blue or just a number of things, maybe this wouldn't look as like classy and applicable for a gents folder. But with this like deep gray, it's almost like a battleship gray color on the FRN. It still has a good capacity to be used as a gents folder. Still a really classy looking knife. So again, more good choices from Spyderco there. But now let's move on and talk about this Paramilitary 2 in Maxamet steel. And this is another one of those knives that is sort of a loner. It's just passing through my hands, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to sort of preview it and get a look at it before I send it to the person who actually bought it. So the thing that is really interesting about this knife is that it's the first Maxamet from Spyderco to be in G10. And so a lot of times when new sprint runs or new variations come out, the color and the shade of the scales is a hot topic to talk about. And so while I was able to see, and be impressed with the color of the FRN version on my Native 5 and also on the Manix 2, I was really curious as to what the gray would look like on G10, and it's good. It's really good. It's a good color. I think it's a classy color. Not too dark, but certainly not nearly as light as, say, that Crew Wear sprint run was from like a month or so ago. All right, so we've got the first look of that here. I think it's complemented really well also by the stonewash finish on this knife, and hard to pick up on camera because it is a very fine stonewash, but really attractive job. This knife, it has cut nothing, but it is stupid smooth out of box. So they did a good job with that. And the only other thing I think I wanted to talk about this while I just give you a look at it was I wanted to talk about sprint run versus limited edition versus full-time production. Because I have heard a couple people offhand mention that they thought this was a sprint run. And unless I'm completely mistaken here, this is like the Manix 2 and Maxamet and the Native 5. This is a full-time ongoing production knife. Now, it's going to be sold out, I'm sure, for a while, and it's going to be in limited production because that's just how like the hot commodities of new models are with Spyderco, especially Paramilitary 2 variations. But to my understanding, this knife is going to be in constant production, so eventually you will be able to get one. Again, if I'm wrong, I'll certainly make a comment or an addendum down below, but I really don't think that's the case here. I think that all of the Maxamet is just going to be in production, so this one will be available. It is expensive. It's an $180 price point, but again, this is one of those like trendy designer steels that people are really trying to get their hands on. But yeah, if you're patient, eventually you should be able to pick one of these up. And this knife, personally, gets me pretty excited for the Para 3 version because I will definitely be interested in picking that one up. But this one is on its way to its real owner, so I'm thankful for the opportunity to take a look at it and share it with all of you. All right, guys, but that's really all I've got here. Just wanted to take a look at these two knives, and again, focusing on that Chaparral and just how impressed I am with the marketing, design, execution, the whole shebang when it comes to this one has been a home run, both with the FRN version and with this Revere Noble that I got earlier this year. All right, so like I said, any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, you know where to reach me. I will talk with you soon. Really appreciate you watching. Have a good one and take care.